Welcome back, everybody. I am taking a second off of the 455 engine build to answer a question. Literally tens of you have been asking me about the Serpentine belt drive system I'm going to use on the 442. I looked across it because I am part of a bunch of different web forums. You've heard me talk multiple times about G-Body forum. I can't say enough about that. Real Olds Power is another one I'm on. And there was a dude on there, Extreme Supreme, who made aluminum brackets to be able to bolt like a 90s General Motors, like S10 Blazers, where I got mine. I think it was a 91 S10 Blazer. You can bolt the front serpentine system on there, and then you can run like the S10 compressor and alternator and run the power steering pump, all these different things. And you can have a serpentine belt system on your big block, and I think he makes small block too, old system. So I thought this is fantastic. So I bought the brackets, and then I started kind of figuring out what I needed to do to put this whole system together. If you saw the video, I rebuilt the AC box on it. I'm going to convert it over to R134A because can you get 12? No. So I'm doing all that. So this is going to be a laundry list. And it's literally like a Frankenstein type system because you're borrowing stuff from all over the place, different years, different things to make this work. So let me go on the other side of the camera, and I'm going to go through, because I finally assembled all my parts. So I'm going to go through the big box of goodies that I had to assemble to be able to put this whole system together. It's going to cover the AC, alternator, power steering, crank pulley, all those things that you need. I'm not saying that this is what you should do, because I don't even have all the pistons in my engine yet. I don't have the engine in the car. I haven't put the system together. I know people who have, and I know it works, but can I say 100%? I can't, because I haven't done it yet. But One Bad 79, if you're out there watching this, he provided a bunch of pictures, gave me a bunch of information, belt length, all just things that I could have found, but it would have been a pain in the butt, and he's done it, and he provided a bunch of information, DM'd me on G-Body forum, so can't thank that guy enough. Anyway, let me go on the other side of the camera, show you what I'm talking about. Here are the brackets in question. This is from a 91 S10 Blazer, 4.3 liter V6. They came on, check the status on that. These came on quite a few different vehicles. I believe it might have even had the larger size V8 Blazers might have had these exact same brackets. Anyway, you need to find this. Get these two brackets. I got it with everything on it, all the pulleys and everything, because I wanted to be able to swap everything over and know where everything bolted up. So I bought the entire thing out of the scrapyard. Wasn't that hard to get, and the price wasn't that bad either. So anyway, this is where you start. These are your brackets in question. You're going to get two brackets, one for the driver's side, one for the passenger side. On the driver's side, this one goes to the bottom, bolts in here, bolts to the side of the block. Pretty crafty. Crank pulley. This comes from a late 80s, early 90s Ford Mustang or similar 5.0 or 302 engine. You're going to need that. Oh geez, did I just say the F word again? I'm going to get demonetized. I was able to score this bad boy. This is a reverse rotation aluminum water pump that actually came on Olds diesel V6 is what these originally came on. Let me pop it out of the box. There she is. I think if you tried to get this now, I think it only comes in cast iron. You can't get the aluminum. You can try. I think it might be like some aftermarket companies, Flow Cooler or something, might be able to get it. Anyway, this is a reverse rotation water pump. 91 S10 Blazer, Serpentine water pump pulley. Same 91 S10 Blazer. This is the power steering pulley. I'm not taking it out, just power steering pulley. Power steering pump rebuild kit. Now you could just buy a brand new power steering pump and just be done with it. Price is not too bad on that. I'm just going to go ahead and rebuild it because apparently people like watching me do that kind of stuff, so I'm going to do it. Power steering hose for an 87 Olds 442. Getting down to some of the nitty-gritty parts. This is the idler pulley. Also the tensioner pulley. Both of those for 91 S10 Blazer. This is your tensioner. Also 91 S10 Blazer. This is the CS 130 alternator. If you're swapping over from an SI to a CS alternator, don't forget this little guy, EC82. This is plug and play. It's kind of nice. It's a conversion harness. So you plug the old 2 connector from your original wiring harness in here, and then the CS plug goes in here. It's even got an inline resistor to excite the alternator. Pretty trick. Also 91 S10 Blazer. This is the Serpentine drive compressor, and it also comes with PAG 150 oil in it for our 134A system. PAG 150, R134A lubricant. Here's what I do when I get a new compressor, like the one I just bought. It comes with 3 ounces already in the compressor. Since I'm rebuilding the system, I have to replace all of the oil. And the S10 system, as far as I can tell, took 8 ounces, which is exactly what this is. So there's 3 ounces already in the compressor. When I did this for a living, when we would get a compressor out of the parts department, first thing we would do is crack it open, and we would pour all the oil that was in the compressor out, because who knows how long that's been sitting in there. It's been soaking up moisture, everything else. Pour that out, and then we would put in fresh oil to lubricate the system. So that's what this is for. Here's where we go all over the map. This is the pressure switch that goes on your receiver dryer. This is actually made for the 87442. It is a conversion switch, and it's specifically set up for R134A. So you're going to need that bad boy. Receiver dryer, accumulator, whichever way you want to call it. This one is for a 1987 Buick Grand National. It's clocked just the way I need it to be able to fit the hoses and everything I need. Let me pop this out of the box. That is the clocking that I need to be able to hook this up to my system. 92 Camaro V8 5 liter. This is the high side AC hose. And the interesting thing too is there's no high side connector on this hose. So I had to figure out what to do because I wanted to have a high side and a low side both connected together. And here's what I found. So this is what I found. This is from Nostalgic AC Parts, and it is an inline high side charge port. So this would hook into your condenser, and then the other side you would screw in the line that would go into your condenser, and then you have a high side port, which is what I wanted. Red orifice tube that fits in a 1995 Ford F-150 5 liter. It's part number 38635. And just listening to other guys online, it's all these different orifice tubes. The size of the port on the inside will affect your overall pressure and the cooling. So this is the one that I've chosen based on what other people have found. We're going to find out if it works, but that's what I'm using. If you remember, these are off an S10, and you can take just about everything off with a 13 and a 15 socket. Except for the compressor, for some reason. Those are 14 millimeter bolts. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the location. Maybe it's, why not 13? I don't know. Like the Critical Drinker says, why? Don't know. Okay, so hopefully this doesn't drown out the mic. If it does, I'll take care of it in post, but let's start breaking everything off of here. Come on. Oh, missed one. Back bracket. That ought to do it. All right, alternator, bolts associated with alternator. That could stay on there. These are 15. On with that. Power steering. One bracket ready to go. One more left here. Let's see. All these 13. No, they're all 15. Get that together with that. Because there's also spacer that goes on the back. Make sure you keep this stuff together so everything lines up right when you put it back onto the new stuff. All right, idler. Okay, here's the oddball. 14. That doesn't. Got a nut on the back. Yes, it does. Oh, maybe that's why. Oh, that's tight. How? Okay. Let's keep that nut to the side here so I can figure out how to get it back. So I figure out how to get the bolt out. It's the same thing? Yeah. Another nut. Yeah, that one's good. Is that the same thing? Yeah. What is that? All right. This is going to be fun because I can't, doesn't look like I can clear any of those bolts past the compressor head, but that's not right. There's the 3 nuts for that. It's got to come off, right? Right, there's got to be the shoulder of the bolt sticks underneath the clutch. How about this one? I don't want to let go. just on the back. Let's see. Might just be just enough that it doesn't want to let go. There it is. I want to hit it too hard. I don't want to distort the bolt. Just enough to, or distort the nut. What am I saying? Where'd that one go? There's a nut trapped in there somewhere. I'll have to find that. They're not making this easy. Let's get this off. Is this, I think that's actually a 13. It's already loose from taking it off the car when it was out in the yard. So I have 2 brackets. I'm assuming those bolt to the manifold somewhere. How does that come off? But how it just, oh, is there a spot on this? There's no way. That is like way out. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Bolt head. Let's see if you can see that. I didn't notice this. Look at the flat spot. It is made with a flat spot in it to clear. It's made with a flat spot to be able to clear the clutch. And it's not ground that way, it's made that way. Okay. So now I know what I'm doing. Where's the flat spot? There it is. Come on. Now that I got you, I know what I'm doing. Man, it is still. Is there a flat spot in the clutch, or is this clutch bad? Because it seemed like when I was rotating it, I hit a spot where it just popped out. No, it doesn't look like it. So why? Why so difficult? Okay, so when the part you're working on tells you in uncertain terms it does not want to come out, sometimes you have to be persuasive. That's getting it. I don't care about you, buddy. You're toast. All right. One more. That's on the flat spot. Let's see. Doesn't want to stop wobbling. There we go. Wow. Okay, well that is going to be very interesting going back in, because I want everything to look pretty. And man, this it's in there too. Is that everything? Yeah, nothing else is holding it. All right, let me get these 2 nuts on here before I lose them. All right. More persuasion. You will come out. I insist. There it is. Ah! Compressor. What else we got? I want to make sure everything is off because I got to blast these. I don't want to. There's a pad made onto that. All right. Now it's sandblasting time. Well, there they are. If I ever get to the point where I can build my own shop just dedicated to working on this stuff, first thing I'd build is a blast cabinet. With all these nooks and crannies in sugar cookie. it was bad. So I went in, cleaned up, then something else came up, and it's like almost a week later now. But they're as clean as they're going to get right now. I'm probably going to have to blast them again to get them really clean for paint. Either that or I gotta blast it with something that I guess makes it look better. Maybe I'll keep it raw and just like use diamond clear. I don't know. I'm probably going to use the same cast coat aluminum that I use on the water pump when I put it on. You'll see that. So I probably will paint them that. Either that or I'm going to do like black like you would like regular brackets. So we'll see. That's still up in the air. I got to decide. So let me wheel the engine around and then we'll get the fabricated brackets on that these things bolt to. I guess that's next. So let's get our first bracket on. So you have these two countersunk holes and then these stainless countersunk bolts. And this bolts onto the head. This top and bottom spot here. Yeah, right there. Obviously, for me, this is a test fit. I want to get the brackets bolted on, get all the pieces in place, just to make sure that my alignment and everything is good. Now, here is something, because this isn't the first time this went on. So these two bolts are tight. I think when the bracket was made, the countersunk holes in the bracket, they went too big or too deep, because either that or just for some reason it does not work with the Edelbrock head. Like maybe a factory head it might, but the other side is the same way. That's no good because the brackets bolt here. I mean, the one head bolt up here technically would hold that in place, but that's sloppy. I can't have that. And the other side is even worse because these two holes, I believe it's these two, hold the bracket in place. No, it's these two. So the bracket goes here, and then you've got the one bolt hole down here. So it's the same thing, but it's not enough, and both sides are loose. That is unfortunate and a bit angering. It's like $150 for this. I mean, the pieces are cut out very nice. Everything is well made. Everything lines up. If it weren't for that, it would be a bolt-on. But, well, I've got to run out to the hardware store because I've got to buy all the bolts that will, because they're all 3/8/16. So I'm going to buy the bolts that bolt in here and over on the other side that bolt the two brackets to it. So I got to go out to the hardware store anyway. So instead of sitting here crying about it, I'm going to try to find something to do to fix it. So look at that. That's terrible. I'm hoping, probably not going to find it at the hardware store. They just don't carry that kind of stuff. But I know that for countersunk holes, I swear I remember seeing like a washer, like a coned washer that you could buy, that would basically be the gap in between the bolt and the countersink to take up that room, almost like a repair, like maybe you went too deep or you wallowed it out, and that spacer would fix that. Look at that. That is just, it just went too deep. I mean, or he countersunk it with the wrong size. That might be what that is, because the top one doesn't move as much as the bottom. I don't know. That's just sloppy. All right, enough crying. Let me go see if there's something I can find. All right, I'm going to see if I can give this a try. This is a bolt retainer. You may have fought one of these when you got your factory rotor off. These things slide over the stud and basically hold in place. There's a couple under the dash. You always end up having to use a pair of like needle nose or something, or a pair of side cutters, and try to get these little boogers off. Well, they're really thin metal too. Here's my idea. I don't know if this is going to work. So this just fits on our concave bolt, right? So I think if I use a block of wood with a hole to make up this space so it goes flat against this, I can put this in my bench vise and squeeze this and basically turn the washer concave. That should take up the space and act like its own spacer and hopefully fix my issue. It'll be just because there's not a lot of room I need to fight with, just a little bit. So I'm hoping that this works. So I'm going to go squeeze one of these out, well, probably two, and then we'll bolt it on, see what happens. Maybe. I was able to crush them, and they're thin enough, they just collapsed right down into it. So let's put it back on and see if it makes a difference. Oh, well, if this one goes down in there like that one did. Let's see if I can move this one a little bit. So it goes right down in there. Because I believe these also have to be flush to make room for the bracket that bolts on top of it. That is it. Put some Loctite on that, and it is maybe just a hair off of flush. You can just get your fingernail on it. That might be good enough. I guess I got two more to do. All right. Same thing. Didn't take a lot either. Basically just used a block of wood with a big hole in it, so the bolt on the backside had somewhere to go, and didn't take a whole lot of pressure because they're pretty thin metal, and I didn't have to make up a ton of room, just a little tiny bit. And I think these retainers are going to do the job just fine. So all I need is for these things, and these are going to go in with Loctite. So once they're in, they're not going to move. Yeah, okay. I love it when a plan comes together. So then the last piece is this little guy. This goes on the back side here. One thing that must be done is drilling out the holes on the back of the bracket where it meets the new fabricated brackets. So In order to get more thread engagement, there are actual lugs that are installed into the brackets and they extend out. And in order for you to be able to get the factory brackets on, you've got to drill out the area in the back. It's a 9/16 drill. Not much, it's just that amount right there. That's how much the threaded portion sticks out flush from the bracket. So we're just drilling down. This would probably be better if I did it on my drill press, but I'm being lazy, and not everybody has a drill press, and you honestly don't need it as long as you're careful. And we'll just take our time and drill this down to the depth, and then we'll test fit it. I think that might be good for that one. Just one on this side, which is the passenger side with the AC. All right, so I got them drilled out. I did a couple of test fits and just had to go a little bit deeper, which is fine. So now, let's see, these things should fit right on here at this point. Very good. All right, let's drive the bolts in. So one over here, this little guy is 3/4 inch long. There's that. Well, you know what? I should, until everything is in, I should leave these guys a little loose. One over on this side is 1 inch long. These are all 9/16, by the way. 9/16 head bolts, and they're all 3/8/16. One down here in the well is 1.5 inches long. All right, and then also going to use 1.5 inches down here for our bracket that bolts in here. Where are you at? There you are. Like I said, the best thing to do is get all this loosely fitted before you try to tighten anything down. And then you have, where is it? I just used one of the, back here where the engine mount is, I'm just using one of the engine mount bolts. It needs to be longer, like, I don't know, I think this thing is like 1 inch, probably like 1.5 inches to figure that out. Okay, so with all that down, I should be able to start cinching this all the way up. Everything seems to be going in. All right. Everything on that side anyway seems like it's going together quite nice. All right. Let's go over and do the other side. All right, other side, same thing, but just one spot you had to drill out. All right, put this right up. Oh, fits perfect. All right, on this side, that's a good place to sit my tools. On this side, it is two 2-inch bolts. Again, these are all 3/8/16. Let's get this started. Down here. Get that sort of snugged up into place. Then we'll get our other 2-inch in. This is a little deeper down in there. There we go, right there. Line that bad boy up. All right. Back over here, I think we can snug this one down. That's good. Back to the other one. There it is. That is both sides on. Cool. Now is a good time to subscribe. Did I just say that? Down there, the little red button, subscribe. You know you want to hit that button. I won't tell anybody, I promise. Okay, so you've got the cradle where the compressor goes, you got your idler, and the tensioner, and then you have your idler pulley that goes in here. Down here, I think on the S10s, they had an emissions pump. Here's an interesting thing. This is an old trick that I've heard people do, and I've heard them always use. It's a Ford. It's the Ford Lightning. Now the Ford Lightning, not the small body like the newer ones that came out. Newer ones? It's still like a decade ago probably. The ones that were the big. Yeah, the big boxy truck. Those old Ford Lightnings, which have been like what, late 80s, early 90s, I think. They had a vacuum pump on there, and for whatever reason, not a vacuum pump, it was an air pump. For whatever reason, somebody figured out, because it's an air pump, so one side pushes air. Well, in order to push air, you've got to suck air from somewhere else. So there was a fitting on the back that was just open to air, and that was your intake. This thing would be spinning, and it would pump air into the pipes that controlled your emissions and helped clean that up. So someone figured out that if you just swapped those two and then put the hose on the suction side, that you could make a poor man's vacuum pump. So in situations where you're running a big cam and it's a low vacuum thing, you could actually put a Ford Lightning air pump on here. For whatever reason they used the Lightning, I don't know if it was just that it was better or it held up longer, because you're gonna start to suck like a little bit of oil fume, and at some point it's going to contaminate it. Maybe it just held up better, that I don't know. But literally you could run the suction side of the air pump up to a valve cover, and you could essentially, or to a catch can and then to the valve cover if you wanted to eliminate some of the oil getting into the pump. And you could run it almost like a race car when it has a vacuum pump on it. You could run a vacuum pump, give a little bit more vacuum to the engine to make up for the lack of vacuum with the cam. So that's kind of a cool backyard, like figure stuff out, shade tree kind of thing. I like that. I love stuff like that. It's always cool. So anyway, so here it's on. Now, since I'm probably not going to do that, literally you could cut this thing off like right here and just have this top part. It would be a lot cleaner, and that's what I may end up doing. And usually what happens is the back side of the idler here, they run a bracket. Those two brackets, when I took them off, one of those brackets would run down to the intake manifold. And possibly another one on this side that will run over here, I don't know. But basically stabilize this, because you've got this heavy compressor and everything running off of this, and you've just got the two bolts over here holding it on. You could lop it off here, leave this on, and run a bracket, just like on the other side, run a bracket from here over, make it like a little support bracket, and run it over to the one bolt for your for the engine mount on the one side, and help stabilize the bottom. So I got to figure out what I want to do with that. So that'll be the decision. Do I just take this thing and lop it right off and then smooth it out? Maybe do it right here so it kind of looks like a natural break. Cut it right there and then cut it across, and then let's like smooth this out so it looks a little like it was made that way maybe. Anyway, so I got to figure out what to do with that. So the balancer I'm using is a Power Force Pro Products balancer. It's a little bit of shine, but there it is. I like this thing. It's got the degree marks laser etched onto it. Very nice. And what I'm going to do is get some assembly lube on the snout here. Make sure we don't gall anything up. And we're also going to throw some lube on our seal so we don't accidentally jam or tear that on the way in. There we go. All right. Same thing with the balancer. I'm going to throw a little bit on the outside and inside of the balancer shaft just to make sure that is nice and lubed up. There we go. Just a little bit on the inside here. A little bit on the outside. Make sure everything is nice and slick, so when this goes together, I won't have any issues. For what I remember, these are kind of, the fitment isn't like super tight, like you don't have to fight it right from the very beginning. This will slide a little bit of the way on. Yeah. All right. I went out to a local parts store, I won't say which one, and I picked up a rental tool to Harmonic balancer installer. I put some lube on it. Somebody had their way with this thing. It's like it's distorted. It's all jacked out of shape, but it still rolls, and I'm going to use it. But I think when I get it back to the store, I'm going to let them know, hey, this thing is a little bit messed up. Same thing here. Just going to take what's left, lube these threads, so as I run it down, don't gall this. So that way the next guy that rents it doesn't have it any more jacked up than it already is. All right, so I've got, this is the piece that goes into the crankshaft, into the front, and then this bolt actually feeds all the way through, and then this screws onto it. It's an interesting design, the way they do it. All right, so I got this tightened down, and then we feed this in. Get that good and tight. All right, so then our ridiculously jacked up bearing goes on. So this is supposed to, it still moves. Man, it's messed up. So this is supposed to keep you from galling the end of the balancer on the inside. So then we'll run our nut down. So now we'll just throw 1 1/4 wrench on this. Just drive it on down. Seems like it's running smooth. I don't feel it dragging on the inside, so hopefully that bearing is working okay. All right, we just reached the seal. I'm just going to slow down a little bit. Make sure we get in there okay. Doing all right. All right, the shaft is starting to spin, so just using 9/16 to hold this in place for the last little bit. I think that's it. Just that easy. So this honkin' gigantic ARP crank bolt, they say same thing like every other bolt they have. It's the high torque lube onto the threads, put it in, torque it down to 200 foot-pounds. 200 foot-pounds? yeah, I'd probably flip the engine upside down trying to do that. So it's assembly lube right around the shank here. Get our gigantic washer on. Make sure that's good and lubed. And then around the threads is going to be blue Loctite, and I'm going to hit it with my big 1/2-inch drive impact gun. All right, let's get this guy in. And hope that my 12-point standard socket withstands the impact of this, since I messed up and got a 12-point head on the bolt instead of a hex head, and I don't have any impact 12-point bolts. So this ought to be fun. Make sure that blue Loctite is nice and spread around. We're just going to hit this thing as hard as we can. Next will be the water pump. I will talk about that in just a sec to kind of fill you in. Again, have to use NACs on these. Let's get that in there. There we go. I don't know if you can see it, but remember all that talk I had about leaving the bottom on and having a, well, yeah. Well, the water pump outlet here won't fit past it, so it had to go bye-bye. So I just hacked it off real quick. I got to sandblast this thing, really make it clean so I can paint it. So I will smooth all that out so it looks nice and pretty. But for now, we're just getting the water pump on. So the book says 13 foot-pounds for tightening these. My torque wrench doesn't even go that low. So what I do, like every other water pump I've installed, I just go by feel. That is how these will get tightened. These bolts are 1/2 inch and 7/16 for each. There she is. Don't know if you happen to notice that I used the timing marker from the 307 since it actually went to, I think it's 20 something for the time and degree marks. So I painted it, and then I used a silver paint pen and just went over the raised letters and then hit it with a little diamond clear to seal it in. I think it looks nice. Water pump pulley. Nothing needs to be tight at this point. We're just mocking everything up for test fit. A friend of the channel, PacificGbody.com, sent me that. Check it out. So this comes with their big block and small block kit, and it affords you the opportunity to make up that gap in between the two sizes. So this fits perfectly onto the balancer, so that is snug, and it also, oh, that's real snug. So I painted the pulley, so the paint is actually enough that this thing is like right in there. It's perfect. That is awesome. So thank you very much, PacificGbody.com, for sending this out so I could give it a try. It was when I posted the video when I was putting this together, and the dude got a hold of me on Instagram, I think, and said, you know, we make a ring for that takes care of that problem. And I was like, no, I didn't know that. So he said, yeah, let me ship you one so you see what you think of it. Very nice, very nice. So this takes up the place of that gap between the two. It's going to work out perfect. So if you haven't drilled out the holes, if this is brand new, you're just getting started, you buy the pulley, it's got the holes drilled for a Ford balancer. So all you do is you take your nifty plate and you put it on the back side, wedge it in, and then what you want to do is, like these are the factory holes, so you just clock it in between the two factory holes and drill yourself a second set, which is what I did. Now, because I did it very unorthodox, I'm wondering if all my holes line up. Ooh, little resistance there. Look at that. So that one is just a little bit off. So I'm just going to take a Dremel and just slightly open up that hole so that way this thing will screw down. Now I can kind of, it's like it's the length of the thread. So I can like thread it down. So I'm just going to get in there and open that bad boy up just a little tiny bit. The other three fit perfect. Oh, maybe this one's a little bit snug. Maybe I'll hit that just real quick. But these two, and then this will be ready to go. Again, I can't do any, not until I get this thing sealed up. I don't want to do any power drilling in here, flying stuff around. So I'm just going to use a round file. It's just so slight. I'm just going to hit this one side right here, and then one side right there, and this thing should fit perfect. All right, that did not take that much to do. Just a couple of swipes. Let's see if it yielded any results. Good, 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 good. That was it. Not much at all. Well, that fixed the one thing I was thinking might be an issue somewhere down the line. Actually, I got a buddy of mine that was actually worried about this because there was like a slight gap in between the diameter of the pulley and the diameter of the balancer. And he was just worried that the bolts were going to shear over time and it would be catastrophic. And, well, don't have to worry about that anymore. What I do have to do now is get a longer bolt to make up for the distance in between the new piece. But that fixes that. Are you subscribed? You know you want to. And we'll do the crank pulley since we're here. Again, nothing needs to be torqued down. Just snugged up so everything fits. Oh, that one's still loose. There we go. Next is a compressor. I filed that flat spot down even flatter just to make sure that it clears my clutch okay. Now the alternator. There we go. That's snugged down. On to the next. For power steering, I had three different options. I had three different pumps sitting around. The one that came on the S10, the one that I think might have come on this engine, I'm not sure, and then the one that came on the 307. I'm using the one on the 307 because I like the angle of where this return line is. So I think that's going to work well, and hopefully it's going to put it close to the same spot, so it shouldn't be an issue as far as mounting that. All right, let's get that pulley on. A little bit of lube to make the trip a little easier. And this is going to have to come back off because this is just mock-up. I think that got it. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it. Now I just got the idler pulley and the tensioner. So this is interesting. On the back of the idler pulley was this little, I noticed when I took it apart, little tiny O-ring. I think that may have been there just as an assembly method to keep the, let's push this down here, to keep the spacer and the bolt together during assembly. That's what I think. Actually, I don't know for sure. Let's put this down. On the old one, the front opening was bigger and there was a washer in the front. And the washer doesn't fit on this one. And I thought, oh no, did I get the wrong one? So I went and actually looked this part number up. It actually says in the comments to discard the OE washer in the front. Okay, I may come up with something. I feel like there should be something in here. I don't know. There's a pin in the back, lines up with that hole, so you can't put it on wrong. Well, I guess you could, but you'd be crying about it later. All right. All right, nothing needs to be torqued down. This is just me doing fitment so I can get my belt measurement. Well, we are ready to put the belt on. All right, so I have the belt that was off of the S10. So I'm going to use that as my, I think that goes here. All right, use that as my guide. Hopefully this is long enough that I can, yeah, I think that might be. Let's see. Ooh, it's going to be close. Yeah, I think that'll fit though. I just guesstimated. Ooh, yeah. Is that going to hold? Okay, it looks good all the way around. Ooh, did I just get lucky the very first time? I don't know. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, you see that double notch right there? The swing of this goes from over here to over there. This is equidistant preload or center preload, whatever you want to call it. But you can see there's a little arrow and you line it up with that mark. So if the belt is the right length, it's going to line up with that notch right there. That gives it the adequate amount of tension. It's not too far up where it can ride and bounce. It's not too far down where it's not going to give you the proper tension and maybe interfere here. Yeah, I think I just, I eyeballed it and I'm like, I think that might be right. I guess I was right on the money. I swear to you, I didn't do this several times. This is mock-up, first time. There it is. The whole thing put together. That looks sweet. I really do like that. So I think that's going to put my return and outlet just in the right spot where I want them to be using that 307 pump. Looks like all of my pulleys are lining up very nice. I like that. Everything looks very good. This is a really well thought out, I mean, just those two brackets to be able to mount this on, I really like this. So I think once the intake manifold goes on, right on this side, I think I am going to have to run a bracket, either, I don't know, get a longer bolt and run it from here, or run it probably from this mounting point here, make more sense, and then run a small bracket down to the intake manifold or off somewhere, just to make sure that this thing has got some support, because it's just these two. You got this bolt here and one on the other side, and that's all that's holding this on. And I just think maybe one more bracket, maybe something down at the bottom. I'll figure that out. It came with two brackets, so I think that'll work. Also, got the sending unit. I mocked that in place just to make sure I put that somewhere. I don't want it like sticking out, and I don't want it, it's not going to go that way. Yeah, so I think that's its home right there. So that'll be hidden kind of down in there. It won't be a big deal. So now I've got all the belt in place and I've got it locked down. So now I can just use a tape measure. I can measure the length of this belt, run out to the store, or just look through a parts catalog, whatever I need to do, find the exact right length of belt that I need, or what's very, very close to it, and good to go. And I've actually ordered the belt. It's sitting on the engine, so it fits. So I will show you that real quick. Let me show you how I measured the belt, because there's a certain way you measure serpentine belts. So this is the junk belt that came off of the S10, was it 93 S10 Blazer. So this is the donor belt, and all I did was I just cut it off with a pair of side cutters, and I used a pair of vice grips, and I just put it back together until I had the length I want. And like I said in the last video, first time I got it on, it was perfect. So I was very excited. So I got it on. So if you want to measure this, you have to measure, and I used, don't tell my wife, I used a measuring tape. It was like a vinyl measuring tape you use for sewing. And we keep it in a junk drawer in the house, but you have to measure the outside length of the belt. That's how you get the exact, that's how the belt is measured, I guess the way the factory does it. And using that vinyl, like sewer's tape measure, it's much more flexible, and I was able to just kind of like ride around. And then when I got to the end, because I think it was like 60 inches, so when I got to the end, I could hold that spot and then double it back, and then I could measure the rest. And it came out to 93 inches and like what, 7/8? It was like 93.875, something like that was the actual measurement of the belt. So I went online, and it took a little bit, because you look through, I think one manufacturer, you kind of search by length. I can't remember. It was a little difficult. But what I did do was I looked up, I wanted to see what the original length of the S10 belt was. So I just went to like, I don't know, one of your big box auto places, AutoZone, whatever you want to call it. And I looked for 93 S10 Blazer Serpentine belt. And there's two different belts. One belt is for AC. And did you know this? You could get a 93 S10 Blazer without AC. There's an AC delete. What? In 93, I didn't think you could even order a car without AC, but you could. And let's get over to the engine. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So for an AC delete with this whole compressor off, there is, it's like it's a pulley, and there's a bracket that goes across, that bolts into the two spots, and basically takes up the place of what the compressor is. And there's actually like an idler pulley, but there's a big pulley that's on it that takes the place of the compressor. Well, apparently it's smaller than this compressor, because the AC compressor cars, the belt was like 95 something inches long, and the one without AC was 938. It was 93.8 inches. That was the actual belt length, which is exactly what I needed. So if you do this, just get an S10 Blazer belt. You can use 93. It's probably the easiest way. This is the one I looked for. 93 S10 Blazer AC delete belt, and it's going to be the exact length. And as you can see, my arrow is right at the center point where it's supposed to be. There it is, AC Delco, 6K, 6 is for 6 rib belt, 6K 938. So there you go, Kernsky. If you're doing this, this is the belt you will get. Now, that is the belt that measured out perfect for my setup the way I have it. It should be pretty much the same. If you're buying the kit and you're using the same type of accessory brackets, everything should go on pretty much the same. But you still want to measure, you want to have a test belt, and you still want to measure just to make sure. So AC Delco has the 93.8 length belt. I think Continental and a couple others, it was actually 94. So it was 940 is what was the last 3 for the part number. Is that little bit going to mess things up? Probably not. So either one of those is probably fine. But there you go. There's the answer to that. So now I've got my belt. It's time to take everything apart. So all the accessories come off, brackets come off, and then I keep saying that I can't do this until it goes in the car. I can't do this until it goes in the car. So I think it's time to just prime the engine, put the intake on, put it in the car. So I think coming up, you're going to see the engine and trans installation video. Oh, another thing while I'm here running my mouth. The power steering pulley. So apparently, what I understand, there's some talk online about the pulley size. And I think there's more than one size pulley. I'm not sure on that. If I have the wrong pulley, then all this is wrong. So, so the belt's the wrong length, everything. But there's something to do with the pulley, and there's like 2 different sizes, and the bigger one actually interferes with the Saginaw 800. And I hope that I have the right one, because if I have to replace this and get a smaller one, first I got to find the part number and the size, and I got to pay for it, and then this belt is wrong, and I've just wasted money. The joys of aftermarket, right? Well, since the last video, since I was fiddling around with the pulleys, and I was getting ready to take some of this stuff back off, because I've got to prime the engine, and then I've got to put it in the car. All right, so I forgot about these braces. If you remember, this side, there's 2 bolts at the top going into the head. There's also 2 bolts at the bottom here that go into a separate bracket that bolts to the side of the block at the bottom. So for this side, you've got 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. It's relatively stable, not worried about that side. But this side, there's just two bolts back here that secure it to the head, and then I think a 3rd that runs down into this spot here, but it's all centralized in this one location. So I'm just worried about there being a little bit of strain on it, so I want to do something to kind of brace this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm either going to put a pair of braces or a top brace on it. So I thought I would just kind of go through real quick how I do little jobs like this. So this is how I go about doing it. So I've got the 2 connection points, and I just use mechanics wire, and I stretch it out and I wrap it around, and then I orient it how I want the brace to look, and then I just unbolt it, and then I make my brace, and this is my pattern ready to go. Same thing down here on the bottom. I made another one that goes from a mounting point down here on the bottom. I think that was used to be for the air pump, which I'm not using, so I thought I could put a through bolt here and then run a brace down and then brace it to the underside of the block here. I may not need that if I've got these, because this connection point is like right next to where this one's at, so I don't know. I may make it just to have it, but we'll see. This one for sure, I want a brace at the top. This should keep it from flexing one way or the other, just in case it happens to do that. And that's what I'm going to do. So let's get the stuff together, and I guess we'll make a brace. So this is what I got. It's a 1/2-inch piece of steel pipe I just picked up from the hardware store. Here's a little tip for you guys. This is 1/2 inch wrench. That is how you know it's 1/2 inch. If you're going to the junkyard and you're trying to buy a sway bar or a bigger sway bar for your vehicle, whatever size you're looking for, 1 1/4, 1 inch, whatever it is, take the wrench with you. If it snaps right over it, you know you got the right size, you're on the right track. Anyway, so let's get to smacking this thing and making it do what we want it to. So with the top brace off of the engine, it also gives you a representation on at least how big you have to drill your holes out and the orientation for how it fits. And so now we just hammer one of these out of that pipe. All right, let's make some noise. All right, so with that done, I'm going to take my wire here, put that about dead center of the flat, and then come out to the end. And this way I know about where my turn needs to be. So it's going to be right about there. And then my flat will be on this side. Yeah. See how well I can do that. Yeah, that'll work. The real trick is not to drill the holes out in the wrong spot, because then it kind of defeats everything. So I'm starting on the one side. I've just got the hole centered up. And then I think from this I can figure out my my spacing of the other hole once this one's done. Let's go see. All right, let's see how we're looking. All right. Yeah, not bad. Okay. Now we just got to figure out this side and make sure, because it's a smaller hole, just want to make sure you don't drill past the spot, and then you end up having to either weld it in and then re-drill. So let's see what we can do to make sure we hit that dead on. All right, so we can get a straight line. There we go. And then another one right over here. Kind of shows me where my lines need to be. It looks like the one end is sticking up a little bit. I'm going to go bend that just slightly. All right, that's better. Nice and flat. So if I follow this line, right, I'll put it right. So if I hit it right in there and then drill a small hole, I'll be able to eyeball it as I drill it out until I get the size I want, and I make sure I'm not off. So let's see what that does. All right, there's our pilot hole. Oh my. I believe that is right on the mark. Now all I just got to do is enlarge it large enough to get this in. I think we're on to something. All right, let's take a look-see at what we got. So here's some of my issue too. The intake isn't bolted on, so the height is going to be just a skosh off of where it's going to be. So the fine tuning is going to have to wait until I get the intake bolted on for good. But there it is. Put it in the grinder. You grind off the corners, make it nice and round, both ends, sand, primer, paint, and it'll look like any other brace that you saw in any GM product ever. So that is how I do my braces. It just works for me. Using the mechanics wire, it gives me a quick look at what the final product is going to be. It helps me get my orientation between this side and all that. And it just, as long as you copy the wire, it tells you everything. It tells you the size of the holes you need, and it tells you where everything has to go. It doesn't always work out 100%. Sometimes you got to tweak it. Like I'm probably going to have to tweak this. Once the gaskets go in and the intake manifold goes on for good, it may raise this up just a tad and may move it around. So I may have to open the hole up just a little bit. Who knows? But that is close enough for now, and that goes into the parts pile. And wait till we get the engine into the car. If you've not subscribed, now's the time to do it, because I'm getting ready to put this bad boy back in the car. So you'll get to see me putting I got to put the back flex plate on. I got to test fit the little mini torque starter, and then the torque converter for the transmission back there, and then get that bolted up, and then the whole thing has to swing in. Then there's the double hump cross member I got to put in. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. So you got to subscribe. You don't want to miss it. Well, that's pretty much it. Not a lot of time to do anything else. Still got some family here, so I'm enjoying my grandpa time. So that comes first. Anyway, look forward to seeing some more stuff very soon. Like I said, I got to get this engine in the car. I got to check the valve covers. There's a bunch of stuff that needs to get done. I'm going to do it. Just I need a little time. So this is Hutch from Hutch High Perf. Enjoy your family while you got them around you. Have a good one.